And it's the twins starting out. Ryan Parkin in car number 6 and Scott Parkin in car number 1 as the red lights go out and the race gets underway. Then a bit of a split grid. There's one heading into the pit lane, which I think is Alan Stockford at the end of the rolling lap, but they've all made their way out into this 100-minute race, an hour and 40-minute race for these cars with mandatory pit stops, as I say. And it's the two brothers, the twin brothers, side by side as they drop down through the left-hander at Cascades. But it's Kevin Clark in the BMW M3 that's right with them there in 3rd position. I think it looks like that might be Ian Jones in the BMW Compact. A very powerful BMW Compact that's there in 4th. But Kevin Clark's made it up to 2nd place now, is slotted between the two Parkins and has gone to P2 as they head into Shallows Corner for the first time.
An opportunistic manoeuvre from Kevin Clark, but it's only going to work for one corner because back past will go the second of the Audis, which is the car that started from pole position, Ryan Parkin. So Scott Parkin leads from his brother Ryan, and then not really a gap back to Kevin Clark. It's they're almost touching one another as they come out of Britain's for this first time. The second of the BMWs worming its way through as well. Kevin Clark, after an absolute killer getaway, is just losing a bit of momentum now, far more distracted by the compact on his tail as they head up Clay Hill for the first time.
They do indeed then. So it is number 1 that leads, which is Scott Parkin. He leads the Class A Championship coming into this weekend with 42 points to 29 of his brother Ryan, who has been sharing with Dylan Brichter for this season. Although it was Ryan and Dylan that won last time out at Silverstone last month. And it's Ryan Parkin in 2nd place at the moment, Kevin Clark in 3rd. I think it's his first appearance of the season. The very experienced driver in all kinds of cars. Then 4th, it's Ian Jones in that BMW Compact, the number 117 car, the 3.2 litre compact. Here's Luke Browse, number 22 in the Cupra, and he's going wheel to wheel with Darren Ball, and I think he's getting a place away from Ball, so that's for 6th position. Looks like Luke Browse in the Stoke Market Class car. Well, he had got through, but as they turn into Cascades, it's Darren Ball that gets back ahead now in the sort of Dayglow yellow and black car. Darren Ball, who's been racing in Club Enduro in various different cars for a few years, again through Ireland. Kevin Clark very quick at that part of the circuit and is right on the tail of what is not Dylan Brichter, but it's Ryan Parkin, we believe, for the first part of this race. And he is right with him, but also for very close company is that mighty BMW Compact. And behind them you've got the Trouble 4 car, which is Claire Norman in her Seat Cupra TCR that she shares with Alan Blenko.
Yeah, so Ian Jones has started brilliantly well and matching the pace of Kevin Clark's similar manufacturer car, but the slightly longer version, if you like, versus the compact that is in 4th position. Now, one Audi's been sent off into the distance, and the other one almost being given the job of the tortoise in this, perhaps. So the number 1 car of Scott Parkin is wasting no time whatsoever. However, Ryan Parkin just cannot shake the car of Kevin Clark, which was a relatively late addition to the field. He's sharing with Aldo Ritti in his E46 M3. And again, late on the brakes, just trying to perhaps force a mistake from the second of the Audis in this race, the Audi TT TDIs. BMW is going to try and run side by side with the Audi. Almost got his front wheels level, did Kevin Clark, with that of Ryan Parkin, but no way through at Old Hall. Might have a chance, though, this time around the outside of the avenue. Oh, there was a bit of side-to-side contact there, in fact, wheel arch to wheel arch, and that is what eventually gives Kevin Clark 2nd position, but it wasn't without a touch. He got a much better run coming out of Old Hall Corner and moves into 2nd.
Certainly does. So, exciting battling going on there. Let's have a look at what's happening in the classes. Class B, that's being led by Tidmarsh and Webster. That car, the number 8 car, being started by Chris Webster, who Matthew Tidmarsh was saying was the quickest of the 2 drivers in that car this weekend. And Class C, well, it's being led at the moment by Lee Deadly Sandler in number 62, the car that he's sharing with Andy Gay, the BMW 328i. So they're ahead of the car that's done all the winning this season in Class C, Sam Dennis and Ash Moore, but Dennis and Moore only need a 3rd place finish to wrap up the overall crown. I think whatever anyone else can do in this race. Just a couple of other things to note about the pit stops as well. We've told you when they can take them, and there's some success penalties. We also need to say there's going to be 3 minutes long, mandatory 3-minute pit stop for all of the teams. And one other fact that is highly relevant: you cannot take your pit stop behind the safety car. So sometimes drivers and teams can really sort of strategise and take advantage of a safety car period. Well, that element has largely been eliminated with the prohibition of taking your mandatory pit stop when the safety car is out. So the advantage that you might otherwise get through that, well, it's pretty much wiped out. There's the Class B leading car, the little Ginetta, which Kieran was enjoying in the pit lane earlier on. Yeah, the number 8 car, the Flying Tangerine Racing machine. Ex-Ginetta Junior car from 9 years ago, we were hearing. And it's going very well, leading its class ahead of the Trundley and Ballesteros Audi, which is in second place within that class. You could just about see Bobby Trundley's car in the background there.
Another battle to keep your eye out for is still Claire Norman versus Darren Ball in the Cupra competition, if you like, to be the best of the Seat/Cupra brand. One is listed in the programme as a TCR. They're probably both TCRs, though, are they? They're that evenly matched.
Yeah, I think
the Darren Ball car.
Are, yeah.
So the treble 4 will at some point be handed over to Alan Blenko a little bit later on. There's a place change again there because the second of the Audis, Ryan Parkin, is back in front of Kevin Clark now. So Audi, BMW, back to where we were. I wonder whether there was an element of Kevin Clark giving that place back again for fear of incurring the wrath of the stewards, because, as I said, there was a touch, although he got a much better run through the avenue and down into Cascades. It may have been done on pure pace, I suppose. Scott Parkin was away in the distance, still leads, but there's a massive margin of nearly 5.5 seconds now between these two leading Audis.
Yeah, that's right, as they send their way through Druids for the fourth tunnel. I didn't notice the cars a bit further back came past our commentary box window a moment ago. The battle for the leading Class C was intense between Lee Dendy Sadler and Samuel Dennis, so possibly we'll be able to pick up on that as the race wears on. We're looking at the BMW battle now for third position between the E46 M3 of Kevin Clark and the Ian Jones 3.2 litre BMW Compact, the number 117 car. And there's that gap back to the fourth place battle. That's Claire Norman and Darren Ball, and then not too far behind Luke Grouse in the Stowmarket Class car. So you've got the three similar Cupras all together there, very evenly matched. Then just behind them you've got the number 10 car, which is the Rob Fenwick BMW M2 CS that he is sharing with Andrew Shepherd. So that's the battle there. You can just see going through, that's the Trundley, it is the Trundley at the stage of the race, Audi TT just going through in 12th position overall. Already nearly 10 minutes into this race, and Parkin, Scott Parkin is getting away quite nicely, 6.4 seconds ahead of the rest of them.
This could be a good opportunity for Darren Ball now to muscle his way ahead of Claire Norman. A very good sense of speed towards Britons, but there just wasn't the real estate again to draw alongside. So some good defensive driving, but it's not particularly fast, so it's not hauling Claire Norman away from these additional two Cupras in behind. So they go through almost as one, and then the next car in the sequence is the 8th placed number 10 BMW M2, and that typically is one I didn't write down as the starting driver. Car 10
is Rob Fenwick.
Rob Fenwick started it. I can underline that then as we speak. Andrew Shepherd to come a little bit later on. Thank you for that. So Fenwick's almost joining the Cupra line. Oh, big lock-up from Claire Norman, and that will give the places away. And I just wonder whether that was just the mere presence of Darren Ball, lap after lap, really pressurising in that situation. And 5th place, a big change around, because Claire Norman is actually going to rejoin in behind Robert Fenwick's BMW M2.
Yeah, she's a very experienced racer actually, is Claire. She's been racing for more than 20 years. She started out with the BRSCC Road Saloons back in 2003. She's done VW Cup, she's done Masters Top Hat Racing, she's done CSE Swinging 60s, she's been the British Women Racing Drivers Club champion back in 2022, and the Senior Gold Star recipient in 2023 as well. So she's very experienced. And it's a Gen 1 Cupra TCR from 2018, 2-litre turbo, run by Alan Blenko Racing. Alan, of course, will be taking over the car for the second part of the race, the ex-British Touring Car Championship driver. There is the number 19 car going through. That is the Audi TT of Wayne Lawson at this stage of the race. James Pickford is going to be in it for the second part of it, but it looks like it's just lost a position to another orange car, and that is Michael Downey in the Porsche Boxster.
Yeah, another similar move actually to Kevin Clark's earlier overtake for second place as it was at the time. So different speeds exiting Old Hall Corner, and then that pinch point where the road just jinks very slightly to the right at the avenue, but you have to get it set up then to take the natural racing line into Cascades. Too wide at Cascades can actually spit you out on the other side because there is a crown in the road almost at Cascades, and you've got to make sure that you're in the groove, which actually the Porsche in this case was not, but was still able to take the position. So that is the Matthew Downey Boxster S, and behind the Audi TT of Wayne Lawson with James Pickford still to come.
Yeah, so that's the 14th and 15th, the battle that we see on screen now. Both of those cars in Class B. So battling for positions within that class. A bit further back in that class is Edward Christie in his E36 M3. There's the Class B lead just flashing through, shot in 11th place overall. That's that's Chris Webster, I should say, starting that car. Then it's Bobby Truntley in second, and third in that class is Will Pussergill in the Honda Civic Type R that he's sharing with Chris Nine, and those three have just gone through. And then the next two cars coming through should be the two orange cars, the Michael Downey Porsche and the Audi of Wayne Lawson. But we're going back to the car that's in second place, which is Ryan Parkin at the moment, number 6, sharing the car with Dylan Prinkton. He'll be in the car later on in the race. Here is the battle for Class C, though. This is fantastic stuff. You've got Dendy Sadler, Lee Dendy Sadler there, and then you've got Sam Dennis almost alongside the BMW now as they head into Old Hall Corner, and I think he might have done it. Let's have a look. Yes, he has. So Sam Dennis, number 195, takes the class lead in Class C in this Club Enduro race. A race at which that team, Sam Dennis and Ashmore, could be crowned champions. He's just got through, having sat for the first 6 laps of the race behind the BMW of number 62, Lee Dendy Sadler. And right in behind him as well, you've also got the Paul Subiani, number 66, BMW 318 Ti. That's being shared with Tom Walker this weekend, not Johnny Hayes, who I imagine must be unable to take part this weekend. So Paul Subiani sharing with Tom Walker this weekend. But already now Sam Dennis has got through. He's pulled out quite a few lengths over those two BMWs, and that really does sort of tend to suggest what other drivers have said. It's a very hard circuit to overtake on, even if you do have a bit more pace than your rivals.
Yeah, you've got to take the moment as it arrives, because if you react a bit too late, then that's kind of it gone, and the next few corners you probably can't overtake at. So in a race of this length, I would say that actually you can afford a bit of time to just pursue your opponent, you know, the one that you're trying to overtake, work out where your car is fastest, where it doesn't perhaps have the strength compared to your rival, and once you've worked out the best place to attempt an overtake, then really go for it. On the flip side, you will have wasted a bit of time then to cars further up the road, but that's what an endurance race allows you to do. Just think a little bit more rather than go at it hammer and tongs from the outset, as you might do in some of the 15-minute races we've got elsewhere in the day. Already nearly 15 minutes into this one, though, so time is ticking on. The pit lane effectively opens at 30 minutes unless the safety car is out by that point, and then you're going to wait until it withdraws.
Even longer, yes. I mean, I suppose the slightly helpful thing is it's not a completely full grid here today, so that obviously reduces the possibility of the intervention of the safety car. Naturally, if there's fewer cars on the grid, there's less chance of those cars throwing themselves at the scenery, so there's less chance of a safety car. So I'm going to touch wood and say this, we could get through the race without one. We've already seen the safety car on a few occasions in the sprint races today, so we'll have to wait and see if that does intervene. Worth just mentioning, just going back to that Class C battle, we saw Sam Dennis get ahead. Of course, he does have a 30-second penalty to serve in the pit stop compared to other cars in that class. Paul Subiani with only a 20-second penalty to serve. And Lee Dundee sadly doesn't have anything to serve in the car he shares with Andy Gay. So really, this stage of the race now for Sam Dennis and Ashmore is about pulling out as much of a gap as they can over their rivals within Class C, so that they can try to effectively negate that penalty that they have.
All cars just disappearing over the precipice at Avenue and reappearing, thankfully, at Cascades. So BMW M2 gaining some ground there. Rob Fenwick has driven well to this point in his number 10 car and was able to capitalise on that very slight mistake from Claire Norman earlier on. Now the Dayglow yellow Cupra was on the tail of a back marker, I reckon, so that was Darren Ball trying to get through without, well, limiting the time lost to Ian Jones. And the Mazda number 169 is the next car that stands in a lot of the front runners' way. That is the 169 car of Simonite. So Matthew Simonite starting, James Mansell in that Class C car still to come later on. Oh, it was the Audi that I'd spotted, yes, which is about to be picked off as well by the all-green Browse car. Luke Browse driving for the first stint.
Yeah, so through Druids they come. 78 car, that is the Matthew Stockford Audi RS3 LMS, the Team Dynamics customer run car for Alan Stockford, the ex-Paralympic skier, showing with the very experienced Honda, traditionally Honda racer, Alan James, but obviously racing this Audi with Matthew Stockford, as he has done all season. And they are actually third in the Class A Championship coming into this weekend, best of the cars behind the two Dark Side development machines of Scott Parkin and Ryan Parkin, and level on points with Matthew Hampson and Andy Schultz coming into this weekend as far as the championship is concerned. Class B, as we've mentioned, it's Matthew Tidmarsh and Chris Webster leading that. Bobby Trundy and Sandro Ballestero are second, and then it's Chris Nyland, Will Puskill and Ryan Bensley in the third place car within that class. Ryan not racing this weekend, but Chris and Will Puskill sharing the driving between them. There's Luke Browse going through. He's in sixth position in the Stowmarket glass-entered car. Some big beefy cars making their way out of Shallows Corner there, with the 18 minutes of this race now having gone. Now down to the right-hander, Knickerbrook has gone. The battle for fifth and sixth, Ball versus Browse. Gap between them at the start of the lap was 2.3 seconds. I'm wondering if that's possibly come down a little bit now. Now that's what's gone on there? Oh, that's some lappery, isn't it? That the race leader's doing. Yeah, I've got momentarily confused with the more beefy compact that's further up the order, the Ian Jones car. That's the 66 car, the car that's in Class C of Paul Subiani. New fastest lap of the race has gone to Kevin Clark in third place now, a 148.251. Lap record for these cars around here is a 146.89, set by Will Stacey here a couple of years ago in the Lotus, at least that would have been.
So was Kevin Clark able to pick up a toe here and there, either from back markers, or was he even close enough to be doing so on the Parkin Audi, and I mean Ryan Parkin rather than the race leader Scott, because a 148.2 on that particular lap was a full second faster than the two cars ahead. So there is scope yet for that gap to the second placed Audi to condense yet further, but Ian Jones isn't a million miles away either in the more beefy BMW compact. So Audi second place ahead of Kevin Clark, getting larger in the mirrors now for Ryan Parkin. All of these Class A cars at the sharp end of the field. The fastest lap indicated on our scoring tower graphic as well. And Clark's checked out, and that almost looked like a mistake from Ian Jones to have delayed very slightly the second of the BMWs.
I mean, Clark does stand a good chance of a win here, I think, because although he's third at the moment, he doesn't have any success penalty to serve because he's not done any rounds in the championship so far this season, whereas Scott Parkin's got a 10-second penalty, Ryan Parkin's got a 30-second penalty to reflect success they had in the previous round of the championship. So that will likely make a bit of a difference. Certainly as we get into the closing stages of this race.
What do we know about Aldo Ritti's potential pace when he takes the BMW over?
I don't think he will be as quick as Kevin Clark, which probably isn't surprising because Kevin's a really good driver
and a BMW specialist as well.
BMW specialist, a long-time Eurocar racer. So I don't think Aldo's too shoddy, but I don't think he'll quite have the pace that Kevin does. So yeah, again, that's something to bear in mind. But obviously Scott Parkin's doing the whole race solo, so his pace should be predictable and consistent throughout, and Dylan Brichter and Ryan Parkin, I think that they're both much of a muchness in terms of their lap times as well, so I think again they'll be fairly consistent the whole race long. There's the Class C leader and the sort of champion-elect being lapped, Samuel Dennis and Ash Moore. They're looking to get a perfect run. It'd be nice to finish the season unbeaten in Class C, wouldn't it? They've taken every race win and every fastest lap so far. Just looking to see if they've got the best fastest lap in Class C as well. Yes, they have so far, so they're looking good. I mean, there's still 78 minutes to go, but it's looking like Sam Dennis and Ashmore could make it 5 wins and fastest laps in a row if things continue in the same vein as they've started here. But for the moment, watching this battle for second, Ryan Parkin and Kevin Clark.
When they do eventually pit, will they change tyres as well, or keep the same set of tyres they've got on?
Unusual. I mean, I guess the one unknown is actually hard for us to tell here is the weather.
Yes.
So we get a change of weather at any point during this race because
really
the forecast, indeed, the forecast I saw indicated between 2 and 3 o'clock it might start to rain here. So that could prompt a change in strategy for some. But no, normally there'll be refuelling.
Okay.
But no change in tyres unless obviously there's a damage to a tyre or something like that. I think we did see in the last meeting at Silverstone some tyre changes going on, but that was really the exception rather than the rule.
And I'm guessing that they're all going to be 5 studs to undo and do up again as well. So if you're going to do a 4 tyre change, that starts to compromise your 3-minute essential time to be spending in the pit lane. But
yeah, and of course you can't be doing that while you're refueling as well, so you've got to
okay, yes,
the time will be adding up. So
yeah, so there's different things you can do in the pit stop which will obviously glean benefits, but are they going to essentially delay you in the pit lane? You want something that's not going to take any longer than, well, it's not even 3 minutes stopped, is it? Because that's also traversing the pit lane from the white line to white line. And the careful bit of timing will have been done, I'm sure, as to how long it takes for the car to leave your pit stall or your expected stopping position and the end of pit road, so you don't breach the 3 minutes. Very, very wide approach there for Ryan Parkin in his number 6 Audi, almost putting the front left tyre onto the grass. I don't think he quite did that, but it was over the white line. Not really a track limits issue, more of a grip potential problem, as he's now going to go to the high side of, now that's either a Porsche Cayman, it is a Porsche Cayman, I was confusing it with another Audi that's a similar colour. So that's the 76 Cayman of Michael Downey doing this race solo, and actually very little time lost there by Kevin Clark. He got through in more or less the same position.
Yep, certainly did, as they lap that Downey Porsche, the orange car, driver coming down from north of the border. He was inspired by his dad to go racing. Started back in 2018, so now in his 7th season, and aiming for the Clubman Cup Award this year, but he's not really in contention for that at the moment. He's only got 15 points so far this season, 28 points behind the lead. The Clubman Cup is for cars more than a decade old with more standard gearboxes, more than sort of sequential type gearboxes, etc. But Michael Downey with quite a lot of experience in this Tegiwa Championship now. There's the second and third cars going through, powering away. There's Downey in the orange Porsche Boxster, turning his way out of Shallow's corner, and a little battle going on. And is this 4th position? Yes, it is 4th position. And over the grass goes the Senna Osman car, the E30 BMW, the 171 car. Senna Osman sharing that car with Jody House, the driver from Bromley, therefore loses the position that he briefly gained back to Matthew Simonite in the Mark III Mazda MX-5, and they're shortly going to be lapped by Scott Parkin, as well as Ryan Parkin and Kevin Clark as well. There's Scott Parkin getting past them now.
Yeah, so it's going to take maybe a few corners actually for that E30 to clean up its tyres now, and for Osman to be happy to push, not necessarily for the remainder of this lap, but certainly for the next one. Down towards the apex goes both Ryan Parkin and Kevin Clark in their Audi and BMWs respectively. Kevin Clark using a lot of power coming out of that corner, and the car just jumped sideways very slightly on its rear tyres towards the curb, but it was neatly controlled. Also ducking underneath the Mazda MX-5 of Matthew Simonite. That was at Old Hall corner. So Parkin, Clark, and then the Ian Jones BMW, but that is now 11 seconds adrift of the rear bumper of Clark. So fight definitely on for 2nd and 3rd. It could well continue on into the 2nd stint, but remember that both of those cars will be changing their drivers for Dylan Brichter and for Aldo Ritti.
Yes.
Thank you. So I got there in the end. I thought I've got to look down to my notes rather than the printed programme. Aldo Ritti will take over the BMW. So that's all a bit up in the air as to how they will compare for the 2nd stint, and indeed how long each of them gets.
Indeed. Only 3 minutes or so away now from the pit window opening, so we'll see if anyone does go for an early stop in particular to try and steal a march on rivals potentially. Very interesting to see how the strategy does play out. It is just the one stop that they have in this race, so it's not as if there's multiple stops that have to be taken. Maybe, I guess, with the weather potentially being changeable, maybe you wouldn't want to take your stop too early, just in case the weather does change, and then you can do something at your pit stop to change it. But that would also depend on things like fuel loads, how far into the race you can go. Today's race won't stretch the cars quite as far to the limit as some rounds, because it's only a 100-minute race. Often we have 2-hour races, but we've had a variety of lengths of race this season. Some 75-minute race, 75-minute race at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, and a 3-hour race we had earlier on this year as well. But this is just a 2-hour race, a 100-minute race, and that should be relatively straightforward for the teams to deal with. But there is this unknown of the weather forecast. I'll get the radar up on my phone in a moment, see what might be in store for us in the coming hour.
I mean, at the start of the day there was just a general thunderstorm warning, because it's very difficult to forecast where a thunderstorm's next going to go. So that has to, by the Met Office, just be an overhanging threat. But as for actual wet weather, I mean, all around the skies look pretty promising. There's cloud, but there's no darkness approaching in a hurry. The other interesting thing for me is that Ryan Parkin and Kevin Clark have been hard at it, and I thought they'd be actually slowing one another up, but that gap to the race leader has been coming down progressively. It was 5.3 after 8 laps, 4.8, 3.1, it's now down to 2.7, so they're actually getting closer and closer to the leading Audi.
Now I've got the radar in front of me, and what it is showing me is that there is some storms, some quite heavy rain heading in this general direction, but it looks, as things stand, like it might just skirt past Oulton Park.
Almost as if there's a force field, there's an MSV force field keeping all the bad weather away.
Absolutely. And here comes Kevin Clark, has a look at the inside of Ryan Parkin there into Lodge Corner, and quickly decided the better of it, and has remained in third position. But yes, that force field keeping the rain away. Now we've got our car into the pits, but before the pit window is open, and that's the Lee Dendy Sadler BMW 328i, and that was literally just about 30 seconds before the pit window opened, which is very unfortunate. But that's presumably a problem with that car. Needed pushing into the pit lane, but the pit lane window is now, well, not yet, but in about 10 seconds it will be open for business, and drivers will be able to take their mandatory 3-minute stops should they wish.
Kevin Clark right on the back of Ryan Parkin. He didn't have the best run through the first corner at Old Hall and was under massive pressure. Actually, his braking though into Shell Oils was a lot more beneficial compared to the BMW, so he's made another gap on the Beamer behind. Through Britons they go, threading the eye of the needle there, but the gap's about the same. That was a big chance for Kevin Clark. He still holds the fastest lap. That was done 6 laps ago, and the gap has opened back up again, more to the region of 4 seconds between the two Parkin-driven TTs.
And it looks like Claire Norman is that's in. Yes, she is. So first driver making a scheduled stop there by the looks of it. There's a time penalty for car 69, which is the Matthew Hampson BMW. That's the M2 for the CS Racing car, and that presumably is for track limits infringement. So for number 69 has got a 5-second penalty that will be added to its time. So the leader's coming towards the end of the lap, first time when the pit lane window is open. Is anyone going to take it? Well, Scott Parkin hasn't, Ryan Parkin hasn't, Kevin Clark hasn't. They all continue on for at least one more lap, with the pit window now having opened for the, was it going to be 55 minutes, I think we said it was going to be open during the course of this 100-minute race, between 30 and 85 minutes into it. And there is the car. Here we are, we're talking about tyre changes, and it looks like a tyre change is required on that Claire Norman and Alan Blencoe car. And is leaning in to study the tyres that are being taken on and taken off that car. What are you reading into this, Johnny?
Well, I think it's like for like, basically. I don't think you can go early and predict rain arriving, so the tread patterns look very, very similar, but it is a lengthy job. Well, having said that, yeah, I think it's just a newer tyre, a bit more grip, driving wheels on a Cooper as well.
Yes.
So those will be the ones that take the punishment, as opposed to, for instance, Kevin Clark's BMW being rear-wheel drive. But this is maybe early. It could be, of course, that they had 2 tyres that they knew they weren't going to do the distance, but they had a bit of meat on them, whereas these are the better ones now for the new driver as well. So treble 4 will be taken over by Alan Blencoe. I remember him in Ford Fiestas.
Yes.
In the early 2000s.
That's right.
And he raced people like Gordon Shedden and Colin Turkington in those days.
He did. He'd have raced against Colin Turkington. So that was on the days when I think the Fiestas were on the Power Tour package, and then F3 GT supports, weren't they?
Yes.
I think at that point in time.
Yes.
I seem to remember.
Well, there may have been a switch, but yeah, Power Tour did incorporate Fiestas at certain
one
points.
point, didn't it? Yeah.
I think you're right.
But then, of course, they were sort of also associated with the Toka Sport package as well. But yes, Alan Blencoe certainly was a Fiesta racer. Can probably tell you exactly when that was, because he's detailed it all down on his commentary information sheet.
Good man.
2000, he was 5th overall in the Fiesta Championship. He was the champion of the Winter Series that year, 4th overall in 2001, and then did BTCC, the production class Alfa Romeo, in 2002. So it must have been 2000, 2001 that you were thinking of then.
Yeah.
That he did that. Before that, he started racing with the 750 Motor Club, of course, in 1999 in the Stock Hatch Championship, when he was 4th that year in a Peugeot 205 GTI.
So 750 came before his run in Fiestas.
Yes. Yeah. So
he's gone full circle.
Yeah, that's right. Well, just a quick rundown on the order for those of you at the circuit. Access to the timing screen. Number 1 it is that's leading, which is Scott Parkin, ahead of number 6 Ryan Parkin. In 2nd place, 33 is 3rd, which is Kevin Clark. 4th is 117 Ian Jones. 5th is 25 Darren Paul. And 6th is 22 Luke Browse. Class B, the leader is number 8 Matthew Tidmarsh in 9th place overall, from 55 Paul Simerson and 119 Bobby Trundley. Sorry, Simerson's in the Class A car, so 2nd Class B car is Trundley, and the 3rd Class B car in 12th overall is Will Possegill. And Class C, that's being led by Sam Dennis in number 195, from number 66 now, which is Paul Subiani, and up to 3rd place in that class has gone Thomas Stedman in the Mazda MX-5 since the Dendy Sadler and Gay BMW came into the pit lane. And what I've been saying all of that, another car has arrived in the pits, and that's the Alan Stockford Audi, which has just come in for its mandatory stop. So 65 minutes of the race left to go, and Alan Blanco now back out into the race.
Yeah, so lap times are not quite, two of them won't quite fit into the 3-minute window. So you're going to be 1.5 laps down once you've made your stop, and therefore, you know, we're going to have to be looking as far down as 19th position for potentially a top 5 or 6 finisher. That will all equalise with time. Hint of a delay there as now Kevin Clark's come in. This was earlier than I expected, and is that Kevin yet to get out, in fact? Yes, he hadn't quite undone all his belts, I think. So Kevin can get out now, and the car's about to go up on the internal jacks with the airline readiness, but fuel first, as you've made the point, so fuel has to be done entirely separately from a potential tyre change. Oh, that's a fire extinguisher, I beg your pardon. So that was in readiness for anything untoward as the fuel was going in. Brakes look very, very hot because there are a couple of very hard stops around here. Yes, and it's leaking something.
Yes.
So that's not brakes, is it? So that's potential overheating of engine, in fact.
Yeah, some form of coolant or something pouring out there.
But the steam or smoke is issuing from the top part of the wheel arch rather than the brake disc.
Yeah,
so
it is.
It's coming from the engine bay, or at least the cooling system for that BMW. So that's the concern.
Kieran's down there. He'll try and bring us the news if he can in a moment. There, though, now on his own in second place is Ryan Park in number 6. Although, yes, he is over the line now. That's the 66 car of Paul Sabiani just behind him at the moment. So we'll keep an eye on what's going on with Kevin Clark's car BMW down in the pit lane, but possibly that's why it was an earlier than expected stop, because Kevin sensed that there was something wrong with the car. Maybe the dials were telling him that things were going a little bit to pot. And let's have some news from the pit lane, and Kieran's down there.
Yes, we're down here with the 33 car at the moment. There's coolant leaking from the front at the moment. The driver did not seem to be too worried about it, but they've just been rushing a load of fuel into it. He's currently been strapped back into the car. The marshal will point out the coolant, but again, yeah, the driver wasn't too concerned about it. He's just starting the car again, ready to go out, almost waiting. Oh, the car's not starting. Hang on. Yeah, I don't think it's starting. The car's stuck. Pass back up to you guys. We'll try. Oh no, car's going. I don't know if you can still hear me, but I'll pass back up to you guys. He's just about to go back out on track.
So it sounds like it's certainly fired up now. So it'll be a moment, I would think, before the car. Well, they're pushing it back now, so the 3 minutes must be up. They must have checked the timing of that. As we're watching the Class B leader, number 8, come through, which is Matthew Tidmarsh. He's still leading Class B quite comfortably now over Bobby Trundley in second place. The Intersport car of Kevin Clark, and now Aldo Ritti, is being pushed back out and is going back out into the race. And now starting to accelerate away. Coming out though, just in front of the number 1 car of Scott Parkin, I beg your pardon.
I thought I knew all my symbols on the TSL screen, but the little disc there, does that indicate some sort of penalty that's been issued for car 69?
The penalty, yes. They got a 5 second for track limits, we assume.
Okay.
Yeah.
To Matthew Hampson and the Andy Schultz BMW M2 CS racing car. So I was just momentarily concerned that car had not maybe come through a split recently, and they were trying to locate it, but it's actually an in-race penalty. So Kevin Clark's BMW pitting on lap 19, which was about 35 minutes into the race. So when you've got a 50-minute pit window, 55-minute pit window, you've literally used 5 minutes of it and then stopped. So it doesn't leave much wriggle room should the weather take a turn or should something else happen a little later on. didn't know for sure from Kieran whether there was definitely a driver change, as it did Kevin Clark get back in, but the car was in there for such a long time. I think they have to have done the driver change. And Aldo Ritti takes over. Now, you said that Aldo maybe doesn't offer quite the speed that Kevin can, but this is his chance to step up, isn't it? And unfortunately, he's got to swallow the fact that he's now already a lap, well, maybe two laps down. Yeah, 2 laps down, because you lose a lap in the pits, and now the race leader's gone by again. But you can't let that affect you, because the number 1 car hasn't pitted yet.
That's right. Okay, we're told there's no driver change in the 33 car. They did so. Kevin Clark has presumably going to stay in for the whole race now. Aldo Ritti was included on the entry list, but it just say Kevin's name on the time screen. So maybe a late decision made even before the race started that Kevin would do the whole race on his own, which does change things a little bit, because Kevin very much a known quantity for all of his years of BMW racing, in particular endurance racing, and things like Brit Car as well, but also known for his exploits 3 decades ago now in Eurocar, in the V6s and V8s around the short circuits and the Oval at Mallory Park and places like that. Mallory Mile. So that's the 117 car. That's just coming in now for its stop from 3rd position. So this is Ian Jones. And Martin Gadsby should be getting in for the second half of that race, and I can see Martin, I think, in the background just getting his gloves together and ready to get into the car. Before he does so, though, they will refuel it. Just need to make sure everyone is away from the car and there's someone on hand with an extinguisher before they get out into the race, or get there with the fuel to go in. So that fuel going in. Oh, it will be going in now at the second time of asking, I think. So they'll be deposited that in. You can see how quickly that the level goes down in there. Actually, they must have put a jug and a half in there, I reckon.
That dump churn kind of incorporates the air release as well, doesn't it? So the venting valve, as the fuel goes in, the air comes out, and that's what makes the whole process very quick indeed.
Indeed. Back out into the race goes the number 83 car as well. That's the Puttergill and Nyland car. So Chris Nyland will now have taken over the car that was, I think, 2nd or 3rd in Class B, the Honda Civic Type R. It's gone back out into the race as well, having made its stop. The other car that's coming, I can see at the other end of the pit lane now, I think it's the 55 car. It's not showing us having come in. So it's the Schultz and Hampson car that's coming. There's a car coming that we didn't want to see coming in.
No. But I get the feeling Kevin Clark maybe thought that this would be the case somehow. He didn't seem overly concerned when around Kieran, because he probably had his powder face on, but the poker face. But actually, when a car is overheating to that extent, it's driven straight into the garage on this occasion. Is there anything they can do? Because if the engine temperature is spiking, you risk doing an awful lot of damage to, I'm sure, a very expensive BMW engine. So give it a bit more time, allow the air to get at it, but if the temperature's not coming down, I'm afraid that might be just time to park it now. Yeah,
we've got the 119 car now in. That's Bobby Trundley to hand over to Sandro Ballesteros, who is it's a local circuit. He's from Rochdale, only 17 years of age, and started racing the Junior Saloon Car Championships, also did some 116 trophy racing. Been racing cars for 3 years now, and he featured in the CBBC My Life on the Fast Track documentary following his journey from karts to cars. You can still watch that on the iPlayer, and the car being run by Dad with support from Team Brit. And Sandro's also raced every penny for his racing in JSCC as well. There you can see that's not the pit lane. That's the back side of the pit lane behind the garages, and that's where we find Kevin Clark at the moment, Johnny.
Yeah, he's driven it very close to his trailer, in fact, so that if the car stops there, then it's, I suppose, easy to push it the remaining distance. The smoky, it probably was smoke rather than steam on that occasion, seems to have drifted now, but the engine's probably been turned off.
As Ryan Parkin's in the pit lane as well.
Ryan Parkin in from second place, yes.
And he's going to hand over to Dylan Brichter for the second part of the race, and that's going to be split pretty evenly because there's 45 minutes gone, 55 minutes of the race left to go. So it's going to be Dylan Brichter who, along with Ryan, took the win in the last meeting at Silverstone as well in August. And those two drivers pretty evenly matched as well. So those drivers will be out shortly. So Scott Parkin's still out there, and about probably now half a lap ahead of the car that's second place on the road, which is Darren Ball, who's yet to make his stop in his Cupra. And then you've got the Luke Browse Cupra just about half a second behind Darren Ball at the moment, as we're watching Alan Blanco in the 444 car down in 18th position on the moment after what I think was a slightly longer than sort of strictly necessary pit stop earlier on in the race. But Blanco down in 18th position at the moment. The car behind him on track is the 55 car of Paul Simerson in that BMW M4 GT4 for the driver from Nuneaton.
Making some good progress after its stop now is the Gadsby-driven 117 BMW Compact. So Ian Jones got out of that. Martin Gadsby takes over, and the Bristolian is already up to 10th position with a stop under his belt. So that's good now to the finish for just under 54 minutes still to go. Cooper's still lapping at a very similar speed as well. Remember, there were 3 of them, now the 2 that have not yet stopped. So Darren Ball ahead of Luke Browse, up as high as 3rd and 4th now. Will become 2nd and 3rd, in fact, with the pit stopping Ryan Parkin. Handing over to Dylan Brichter as we speak. So that Audi as well going a lap down, as you automatically do with your pit stop. The leader is now completely in isolation on lap 25. The only car on, sorry, lap 26. The only car on lap 26 currently.
Yeah, the 333 cars in the pit lane at the moment. That's the MX-5 of Thomas Steadman handing over to Michael Hooper. A car that has a 10-second success penalty from the previous meeting. So obviously in the midst of the pit stops, we've got about probably half of the drivers have made a stop so far. Kevin Clark's obviously been in twice and looks to be out of the race, so still quite a few drivers yet to make their pit stops. It's not, sometimes you get a very busy pit window all of a sudden, very busy pit lane all of a sudden, but it's not been the case today. It looks like the drivers and the teams have staggered their pit stops quite well throughout this window, and there's still plenty of it open. Still another 37 minutes of the pit lane window remaining. As we watch this battle, it's for 2nd and 3rd as things stand, obviously with some of the drivers having made their stops that would have been otherwise ahead of them, between Darren Ball and Luke Browse here. What kind of lap times are they doing? Well, Browse has done a best of a 150.5, Ball's done a best of a 151.2. Best lap of the race still is with, I think, yes, Scott Parkin, a 148.427, and they're in the smoky haze of a TDI Audi TT. Goes Dylan Brichter back out into the race with 52 minutes of the race left to go. So the first of the Dark Side Development cars has been in. I think Michael Downey in as well at the moment in his Porsche Boxer as well, the number 76 car.
Yeah, Dark Side Development is obviously a big initiative, but I don't know how many personnel they bring to a Tegiwa.
A few.
Okay, but could they service 2 cars at once, or is it a deliberate ploy to pit them a few minutes apart at least?
Yeah, I think they could do. I think they could do 2 at once if they needed to, but probably safest not to if you don't need to.
Well, they actually have the luxury to not need to at this stage, again because of almost the orchestrated way that they've dictated this race from the off. Scott Parkin, it felt to me as if he was given the role of jetting off into the distance, whereas Ryan Parkin, he wasn't going slowly, but he wasn't going at the same speed as Scott, and almost acting as a rear gunner, just going fast enough, I suppose, to hold Kevin Clark up here and there. And the other thing is, of course, Kevin Clark's actually sitting behind a car at close quarters, a very hot race car, for a significant chunk of time. So has that lack of fresh air to the BMW actually caused the overheating problem?
Yeah, probably wouldn't have helped, wouldn't it? It's for certain. The fact that it's been in such close proximity to another car, the airflow will have been disrupted. Edward Christie is the third of those 3 cars that you can see on the circuit there, with the number 48 481 Class B E36 M3 for the driver from London. Good. Let's head down to the pit lane, shall we? And Kieran is down there with one of the parking twins.
Yes, I'm down here with Ryan.
Seems like we just have 1 or 2 technical issues with Kieran's mic there. We'll be back down with him just as soon as we can to hear from Ryan Parkin, as it must be, because Scott's out on the circuit at present. We'll be back down with them just as soon as we can be. So we pretty much are halfway through this race now, just under 50 minutes left to go. It is Scott Parkin, number 1, that's leading from 25 Darren Ball, 22 Luke Browse. Actually, that's just changed. Yes, it has. Luke Browse has just got through. Just as I was saying that, Johnny.
Yeah, the green car suddenly appearing ahead of the black and day glow yellow. So maybe that was done into Old Hall, or into Lodge Corner, I should say, at the end of the previous lap, possibly through the Knickerbrook chicane. But it's very recent. They were separated by just 0.7 of a second as they headed across the line, and now an opportunity for Luke Browse to open up more of a gap. That car's not stopped yet, nor is Darren Ball, nor is Scott Parkin, who leads the motor race. The 10 car that was started by Robert Fennick needs to still pit as well, but that is a fair chunk further down the road from those squabbling Cupras. Well over to the right now is the rejoining number 6 car. Hopefully we can still hear from Ryan Parkin very shortly. But his teammate Dylan Brichter now at the wheel of car number 6 and straight into the traffic.
Yeah, no respite for him. And even though there's not so much traffic as there might sometimes be, you still come across it fairly often, because there's quite a disparity in lap times from front to back. So the fastest cars in this race are doing well, the best lap time is 1:48.427 for Scott Parkin, and then going towards the back, yeah, he's sort of 2 minutes plus for some of the cars within Class C. The MX-5s, for example, will be sort of north of 2 minutes in terms of their best lap times. Interestingly, for the Class C car, the Class C leader, Samuel Dennis, he's in a 1:57.072, so only 9 seconds off the lap time of the Class A lead, the overall lead from the overall fastest lap of the race. So that's why they've had such success in that class this season. The 3 classes, by the way, split on power to weight ratio rather than anything else. Different splits at 300 brake horsepower per tonne for Class A, 240 brake horsepower per tonne for Class B, and 180 brake horsepower per tonne maximum for Class C. There's some variation as well for forced induction engines as well. That's the general theme. It's power to weight ratio, which is measured on and sort of certified for the season. It has to be obviously tested to make sure that that teams are complying with the power to weight split. They have to display the minimum weight of the car, which is calculated based on how much power it puts out as well, and check that they comply with that on the weighing scales at each round of the championship as well. There's the Dark Side Developments car, number 1 now in. Scott Parkin into the pit lane then from the race lead. You can see the cold air blowing in just to try and prevent these cars from overheating. The point of interest here is where he's going to come out relative to Dylan Brichter, who's just gone across the line now. Now, in theory, of course, Scott was ahead of Ryan Parkin on track before the pit window opened. And, of course, Ryan and Dylan have got a 30-second pit stop penalty serve, whereas Scott's only got 10 seconds serve. So really, if Scott doesn't come out in front of Dylan Brichter, then we know something's gone pretty badly wrong at the pit stop. Yeah,
true. But those things can happen. So it's a useful thing to measure between now and all the cars rejoining. You will have had to have done the pit stop within the next 30 minutes. 15 minutes from the end. 2 BMWs very evenly matched. So this is the 10 car that hasn't yet stopped. 68 looking for a way to unlap itself. 69, is that the BMW?
Yes, 62. Is it 62?
62, I'll get there in a
So
minute.
69, you're quite right first time. Hampson and Schultz.
Hampson and Schultz, who have stopped, and they are looking to unlap themselves, as now the Audi, which is the Scott Parkin car, number 1, will retain Scott as its driver and head back into the race, just out of, there it is in fact, I was say out of your vision, but in ours, and it's in yours now as well. So back to the racetrack goes Scott Parkin. Everything will have cooled off, of course, so important to ease your way back into the stint, and actually a relative calm both in front and behind where the car has rejoined.
Yeah, and well ahead of Dylan Brichter as well, who we could see it was sort of much further back around the lap as that car was going out as well. In fact, it's just coming across the line now, so can I see what the gap is between those two cars? Not easily with the way that the TSL display works, so we'll get a feel on that as they come through next time as to exactly how big that that gap is between you. So the 3 cars that at first, second and third are the 3 cars that have yet to stop now. That's 222 Luke Browse, number 10 Rob Fennick, and number 8 Matthew Tithmarsh is the Class B leader. Class C is still being led by Sam Dennis and Ashmore. They've now made their stop, but they are still leading Class C and therefore well on their way to wrapping up the Club Enduro Crown with a round to spare. So 44 minutes of the race left to go. There's still this sort of pseudo scrap going on as Andy Schultz is going to try and, if he can, to get ahead of the sort of second M2. So Fennick is on lap 30 and Schultz is on lap 28. Make that 31 and 29 as they cross the line. So there is 2 laps between them. Schultz should be a little bit quicker. He's a faster drive than Matthew Hampson, who's taken the car over from. But these 2 cars, by definition, are very evenly matched. Both the M2s, and it's seemingly difficult for Andy Schultz to find a way past here around this 2.6 mile Oulton Park International Circuit.
BMW's shadowing each other's every move, so they arrive together into the Shell Oils hairpin now. So leading remains, or for the first time in fact, Luke Browse. It's still Luke Browse at the wheel of that green Seat after he made the move a little earlier on Darren Ball, and Darren has now pitted in the number 25 Cupra, not a Seat, Cupra. Fennick and Shepherd to become Shepherd, car number 10, the BMW, is also not yet a stopper, and benefiting from not paying a pit call is the Ginetta G40 that was receiving so much attention from Kieran Mogg earlier on. So that G40 heavily up-tuned into the overall top 3 now, but that will all equalise in due course. So the 10 BMW threatening to hold up a faster car here, the 69 of now Schultz. Andy Schultz looking for a way by, but can't do it at the moment, and they're going by a much older BMW, the E30.
Yeah, nice to see the different generations of BMW getting on 30 years or so between them. At least 30 years between them, I guess. Right, it looks like Fennick has come into the pits now with 41 minutes of the race left to go, so has come out of the race, out of second position, and that does free up then Andy Schultz in the number 69 car, unshackled as he now is by having that number 10 car ahead of him. So we've only got the Browse car, the Tidmarsh car, the Lawson and Pickford Audi TT, the Edward Christie BMW, and the Osman and the House E30 that we just saw. Those are the only cars left to make their mandatory pit stop, and they've got 25 minutes or so left to do that. There's one of the cars on screen now that hasn't made its stop. That's the number 19 car, the Wayne Lawson Audi TT, that is sharing with James Pickford, the former single-seater racer. Wayne, who is 52 years of age, from Sleaford, company director, in his first season of racing, having done track days for 20 years. He's driven Ferrari Challenge cars around some of the greatest racetracks in the UK and Europe. But he's a wheelchair user. His car has hand controls, and it's prepared by Blackthorn Racing. And he's a freshly built car, this one, although it's based on a 2011 Audi TT chassis with a 2-litre turbo engine.
Unbelievably, the floppy bollard, which is at Britain's chicane, had lasted almost an hour, but he got absolutely whacked by possibly a couple of cars at the same time and has now been completely flattened. But I can't believe it's remained standing until an hour into an hour and 40-minute race.
Class B leaders into the pits, by the way. Number 8, Matthew Tidmarsh, so he's now arrived at pit lane as well. So really hard now, just a few cars left to make their stops.
Yeah. This is really taking the pressure off Luke Browse in the number 20 car. Paul to take over. That is a Seat Leon TCR for the drivers from Suffolk. And 25 just creeping through shot there, which is still Darren Ball. He's solo driving today. Worcestershire driver with his Cupra TCR, but with company. So heading up Clay Hill, that's going to be an interesting run to the end of the lap. And when these final stops are made, then we will get a true complexion, a true idea of which way this race is going. Well, you can kind of work that out, to be honest, anyway, because the 4th and the 5th placed Audis were separated by not very much at all for a whole host of laps in the early stages. I saw the gap coming down to as little as 2.7 seconds. It's now going to be the thick end of half a minute.
So there's the Schultz number 69 BMW just going through shots. And this very experienced driver, he's 56 years of age doing that. Been racing since 1989. He's raced since the late 1980s then in UK and Europe in 750 Formula 4, Formula 4 2000, Formula 4 C-Tech, Formula Open Lotus, British GT, GT Seat champion, Brit Car champion, he's been a GT Cup Class champion, some Blanc Propel Endurance, LMP3, Brit Sports, Dutch Supercar over the years. Has Andy Schultz. And the car he races, the S55 Turbo Straight 6 engine, prepared by his team, ASR Motorsport. Originally a BMW Motorsport car though, it ran in Italy in 2022 and 2023. That's the 69 car, that M2, that looks so resplendent and is currently, where is it in the running order? It's 8th in the running order. It does have a 5-second penalty. Chris Webster's about to go out into the race for the 37 minutes that are remaining. The team counting him down, push the car back out into the race, don't want to make any mistakes and pick up any unnecessary penalties. So Chris Webster in that Ginetta, ex-junior car from 2015, goes back out into the race. Saw in the press the other day that Ginetta giving a facelift to all of their cars that are racing in things like Ginetta Junior and also their main Ginetta GT Championship as well. Giving them a more up-to-date look.
That might be the only car where the order of the names on the timing screen is inaccurate, because I had Webster circled for car 8.
Oh, you're completely right, aren't you? Yes.
It's a rare thing. Note this down in your diary, folks. But yes, Matthew Tidmarsh, in fact, taking over from Chris Webster. But otherwise, TSL have done a cracking job, because they should have moved the names around to mean that the first one listed was the starting driver.
Shall we hear from Chris Webster now?
Why not?
Let's go down to Kieran.
I'm down here with Chris Webster from the Ginetta. Ian, I know you've been taking the, yes, about me liking the Ginetta. I don't care. Let's talk about it. You're currently leading your class. How's it been out there?
It's been good, actually, yeah. Event 3, I'd say, really. I was a bit worried about kind of starting next to Puttergill in the 83 Honda. But I think fortune played a little bit into our hands at the start, because it was a Class A car that peeled off into the pit lane behind the safety car, and it ruined Williams' momentum. So I managed to get to the first corner, clear of him, and then it's been plain sailing ever since.
Absolutely. And how you found the traffic management out there?
It's not too bad at all. I mean, it's a smaller grid than we're used to, isn't it? So a few Class A's to duel with, some B's and C's that I've either, I don't know whether I've come round onto them or they've done pit stops and they're suddenly, you know, in my midst again. But yeah, it's been all right. Yeah, no events, no drama.
And how are you looking for the end of the race, do you think?
Oh, don't ask me that, will you? It's a Ginetta, it's a race car. There's 2 reasons why I'm nervous. Matt's an ace driver. Me and him are always within a couple of tenths of each other wherever we go. I mean, it's a really good pairing, so as long as the little car does its job, we'll be fine.
So we're not going to say anything about the anything then. No. Good luck for the end of the race.
Cheers, pal.
Cheers, thank you. Back to you guys up in comms.
Webster down there leading Class B, handing over to his buddy Matthew Tidmarsh for the second part of the race. Meanwhile, more cars come into the pit lane, such that the only one that's yet to do so is the son of Osman, E30 M3, to hand over to Jody Halton. But hopefully that will appear in pit lane before too much longer. There is the 69 car of Andy Schultz, going to put a lap on the Mazda of Thomas Steadman. It's not Thomas Steadman now, it's his teammate Michael Hooper, isn't it? There's the Luke and Paul Brower's car. Now that seems to have been in the pit lane for seemingly a little while, but they're again doing some work on the tyres there, Johnny.
Yeah, it's fronts, isn't it? Or certainly a front left that's been changed. It was interesting to me that the Audi's, I think Scott Parkin's car was having the wheel nuts just torqued to the right amount, to the right level, but I don't think they did a tyre change on either of those Audis. That was just a check because you've got the time to do it, whereas this is definitely removing a front left, the tyre that's been taken off in the foreground and the correct side of the white line. And again, an attempt to get the engine temperature down as much as possible with the coolers, almost taken with the car as it's lowered back onto the deck, and that will return very shortly.
It will indeed. So soon we'll be able to give you a rundown on the order as it stands after the pit stops, because it is now starting to make more sense. But we have a situation whereby basically it's Scott Parkin leading the race by 36 seconds from Dylan Brichter now, and it looks like Darren Ball possibly has come out of all of this in 3rd position. But we'll get an update on that, just confirmation on that, just as soon as everything's done. It certainly is a new tyre on the left front there. You can still see the label on the tyre, so a very fresh tyre indeed. And I think on the front right as well. So
stickered tyres, as they say in the business. So it's, brand new fronts for both. I wonder whether that will be, well, I was going to say a noticeable difference, but of course Paul Browse has not driven the car yet in the race, but he will definitely feel the benefit of lots of grip just as soon as the tyre actually gets up to temperature. Also, sometimes there's a release agent that you have to get rid of as well, so it could be a bit greasy, a bit sideways for the first few corners, and then the grip will properly kick in.
So just over half an hour to go. So yeah, it's looking like Scott Parkin, he's now leading on the timing screen as well, because he's just come across the line once again, and he's going to be half a minute or so clear of Dylan Brichter. He'll be second in the car we're showing with Ryan, his brother. And then it should be third, I think, Darren Ball. Class B, that's looking like Tidmarsh and Webster leading from particular Nylan and Trundley and Ballesteros. And Class C, that's with Dennis and Moore. So they're looking good for the overall championship, with a round spare from Paul Sabioni and Tom Walker, and Thomas Steadman and Michael Hooper third. There's the 481 car, one of the later cars to make it stop. That's the solo-driven car of Edward Christie, one of the Class B drivers. One of quite a few BMWs on the grid in this race. I was watching the number 1 car, then the race leader just putting a lap there on number 10, which is now Andrew Shepherd, who's taken over in that car, and he's in 6th position. So I think it will now be 2 laps down that car in 6th place. Just looking at the timing screen by the time they come back through. So keep an eye on that. 38 seconds from 1st to 2nd, 30 seconds from 2nd to 3rd. And we're just going to have the leader coming through shortly again to complete another lap.
Still waiting for Sen and Osman to head into the pits. So that's the only car now not to have stopped, and there'll need to be a driver change there as well to Jody House. So still okay for time.
Yep.
15 minutes in order to do that legally. But it will drop the 171 car further down the rankings in Class B. The car that they're essentially trying to catch is the number 8 Ginetta that we've just spoken at length, of course, to Chris Webster. He's handed over to Matthew Tidmarsh and comfortably leading Class B. Well, it's 22, nearly 23 seconds. The Ginetta separated back to now the Christopher Nyland Honda Civic Type R. And some interesting comments from Chris Webster to say actually traffic's not too bad. This is a lengthy circuit and a slightly smaller grid than we're perhaps used to in the Tegiwa Club Enduro has made that a tad easier, although traffic has the habit of clumping together and you don't want to be suddenly turning the corner to see 3 or 4 cars right on the bit of asphalt that you want. So it depends as well where you're finding the traffic and how much of a delay it can cause.
Just having a look at this rainfall radar again. I think we're safe from rain during the course of this race, but I think there's a possibility we might get some after the Club Enduro race is finished. But we should be pretty safe for the remaining 29 minutes or so of this race, to the relief of the drivers and I'm sure you, the spectators, here at Oulton Park as well, because it's a beautiful afternoon. It's quite warm actually out there. So there's the one car that's doing to make it stop, the 171 car of Senna Osman and Jody House. Surely it will come in fairly soon to give Jody a reasonable stint of racing for the second half. Just look and see which car is the fastest car out there at the moment. Well, it's looking like it's probably Dylan Bricht who actually was the fastest on the last lap with a 150.182. But that Alan Blanco car, fairly quick, also into the 150s as well on the last lap. And yes, indeed, the 171 car does head into pit lane. So that's everyone now having, or will have made their stops in about 3 minutes' time.
Have you mentioned the 5-second time penalty for the Fenwick and Shepherd
No.
BMW M2? That's only just flashing up now, and I think being indicated as well. They'll give that a couple of laps to make sure that Andy Shepherd, who now drives the number 10 BMW, has been given that additional penalty. So that car is currently 7th, and they've not taken the 5-second time penalty into account just yet.
No, that'll be added on at the end.
Oh, is it at the end rather than in race? 'Cause
Yeah.
there was a time when TSL were actually toying with time penalties whilst we were going on, but that caused problems in itself.
Yes, it's
as well.
Very confusing when that happens, especially if you're sort of trying to operate the safety car and you think, well, this car should be behind that one, but that's only because it's got a penalty, so it's not there on the road. So I think as soon as the race finishes, that penalty will
They are incorporated. That's
yeah.
Across the piece, that's the better way of doing it, in my opinion.
So. I think so. So long as you know what penalties everyone's got. There's that car then being refueled for the final part of the race. Jody, you can see on the right with the extinguisher, ready to deal with any situation if there is a fire, which hopefully there isn't. That will be back out into the race shortly. So for your order then, let's do the order with 27 minutes just under to go. Number 1, Scott Parkin leads. He's completed 37 laps. He's 37 seconds very nearly ahead of number 6, Ryan Parkin and Dylan Brichter. He's just completed his 38th lap in actual fact. Second, number 6, Parkin and Brichter. Third, number 25, Darren Ball. Fourth, number 22, Luke Browse and his father Paul, who's now at the wheel. Fifth, on a lap down, is number 69, Andy Schultz and Matthew Hampson. Sixth on a lap down, 117, and Martin Gadsby and Ian Jones. Seventh and a lap down is number 10, Andy Shepherd and Rob Fenwick. Eighth and a lap down, 444, Alan Blanco and Claire Norman. Then we get to the Class B runner, number 8. Chris Webster and Matthew Tidmarsh now driving that car. That's the Class B, the Ginetta, from Chris Puttergill and Chris Nyland. There's 21 seconds or so between them. And then third in Class B, Bobby Trundley and Sandro Ballesteros. Class C, 16th overall is Sam Dennis, but now Ash Moore's taken over that car, and he is well ahead of the second place car within that class. That's the MX-5 of Tom Stedman and Michael Hooper, with the Tom Walker, Paul Sabiani, BMW third within that class. And in a moment, I'll just play with my spreadsheet, and I'll get confirmation of where all of this is going to leave the championship if things stay as they are.
Got 3 cars on the lead lap to this point. I wonder whether there's any advance on that. Yeah, the green Cupra has not yet been lapped by Scott Parkin's Audi. So that car, the Browse car, is also just about on the lead lap. That gives you an idea of the difference between the two TTs from Dark Side Developments. There's a gap of nearly 40 seconds now, so as Scott Parkin is heading through the run between Druids and Lodge Corner, his twin brother Ryan, well, earlier on in the car, now Dylan Brichter, is still way back at Nickett Brook, and it will be 4 cars in total on the lead lap. But I reckon the Hampson and Schultz car, also to be given a penalty at the end of the race, is just now off the lead lap, having been overtaken by car number 1. So how much more does Scott Parkin need to do to get ahead of the number 22 green Cupra? Because that will take another car off the lead lap. I think it's going to be a big ask to lap the field, because Dylan Brichter is charging on, although about half a second slower last time through than Scott Parkin. So Dylan's not quite as quick as Ryan Parkin, I think it's fair to say. Meanwhile, Darren Ball in his number 25 Cupra is arriving into Lodge Corner now with this striking colour scheme, with the Dayglow yellow and grey wrap, and that car will head across the line in third position. The difference is 1 minute and 14 seconds back to, or up to, the race leader Scott Parkin.
Let's head down to the pit lane and hear from Kieran Mogg.
Yes, well, I've got an audio report on the 117 BMW, the 3 Series Compact. Unfortunately, has just come in with brake failure. Driver reported that the brake pedal had gone straight to the floor, and obviously, unfortunately, unsafe to continue. So they are in the garage now. The brakes are absolutely smoking, and the driver is just getting out of the car. Shame way to end the race, really, but safest thing to do. So back to you guys in commentary.
Car of Jones and Gadsby. Martin Gadsby was at the wheel of that in the second part of the race. Now, I've been playing with my spreadsheet, as I'd threatened to do, and I reckon, well, we kind of knew that this was going to wrap things up for Sam Ashmore and Sam Dennis. If they win this race with fastest lap in Class C, which they look like they're going to do, they're going to get an unimprovable 80 points from the first 5 races. But also, if things stay this way, it's just enough, if things stay this way, for Scott Parkin to wrap up the Class A championship with 58 points. If Dylan Brichter can get the fastest lap away from though in the remaining what have we got, 20 odd minutes of the race, then that could change things a little bit. But it looks like it's enough for Scott Parkin to wrap up Class A. Class B, as things stand, that looks like it's going to go down to the wire, or is it? No, hold on, get my spreadsheet updated in the correct way. And
there's almost smoke coming out of that spreadsheet, a little bit like Kevin Clark's BMW from earlier on.
Absolutely, there's coolant leaking everywhere. I think if things stay as they are, then the Class B championship will at least go down to the final round. Although, having said that, the car I was thinking that might take the fight to Tidmarsh Webster is the car that we saw on the inset in the pit lane there for an unscheduled stop. The Chris Nyland and Will Pussegill number 83 car is in the pit lane.
In for the second time.
So, and if that is the case, then all bets are off in terms of the championship. It might be that Tidmarsh and Webster wrap things up today in Class B.
I wonder how aware of that situation they are from a team perspective. Maybe you don't want to give your drivers too much information. The one driver not in the car will be well aware, I'm sure, and you don't wish ill on a competitor at any point, but this late in the season, it's just a sign that maybe the stars are starting to align in your favour when you see an opponent like that jacked up on the left-hand side. The attention is front left corner. I'd say the wheel is off. Maybe they're concerned about the amount that the brakes have been wearing or something overheating. So that's not going to rejoin in a hurry. Meanwhile, we have 5.5 minutes of the pit window still open, but everybody has now made at least one pit stop, so they should have all been fine. We did have that one early stop, didn't we? And that was a car with a problem, so yes, they were never going to call that as their mandatory stop.
No, but I have had notification that they've kind of accepted that, given they're in the pit lane for 22 minutes, they're probably going to let them get away with that, which is fine. So that's the leader, the Sadler Ed Gay, 328i BMW.
Good memory.
Yeah. So less than 20 minutes to go now in this Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship race. It looks like it's one then that with that Nyland and Puttergill car in the pit lane could well sort out all of the classes.
Yes.
Yeah. Class C was sorted out already. Class A and Class B still to be determined coming into this weekend. It looks like Scott Parkin and Tidmarsh and Webster respectively could wrap things up if things stay this way. So with just one meeting to go still after this at Donington Park. That's on the Grand Prix circuit at Donington. A little battle this going on, and this is for position, is it not? And it's a change.
It is, and a change, but the key thing about the Hampson and Schultz BMW is that they've got to now build a lead of 5 seconds because they're carrying this penalty that will only be assessed at the end. So, I mean, the warning is there. It's effectively been divvied out, but it will only be felt on the timing screen once the checkered flag is waved. So, yes, now the job of Andy Schultz to try and build a gap and make sure that the car does finish 4th rather than 5th, which that timing margin would mean it slips behind the Cupra. Yeah. Still frantic work going on the number 83 car. They're desperate to get this car back into the race for the reasons you've explained.
Yes, so up to 4th place then has gone Andy Schultz for the moment. Did that at Oulton corner. The orange cars seem to attract orange cars in this race because we've now got the 19 James Pickford ex-Formula 600 from the Honda racer out in the number 19 car. He's got Edward Christie's number 481, and indeed the box just behind as well. That's fantastic for any fans of orange racing cars. If they're here today, you're being spoiled. Absolutely. I imagine the marshals must cheer them on. That's why they're going so well with all the support they've got here today.
Yes, and there must be something magnetic about that shade. Because, yeah, it's weird, isn't it, how it's panned out like that. We had a couple of orange cars together, but now I think all of them collected down at Knickerbrook and climbing the hill of Hilltop okay, right in a minute, Clay, what's it called? Clay Hill, there we go. As the 83 Honda, it's back on the move.
It is, which is good news. It's Oulton Park, Johnny.
Thank you.
That's all right. The 171 car was also in the pits. That was a battery failure for the Osman and Halt's car, struggling to get that restarted. So I think they may have called that a day, unfortunately. So 17 minutes or so left to go in this race now. Everyone's made their stops and just looking to see if there is the makings of a battle anywhere, but the closest one I can see looks to be for second in Class C, I think, between the Michael Hooper MX-5 and the Tom Walker BMW. About half a second between them. Let's head down to pit lane once again, and we'll hear from Kevin Mark.
Yes, now you may have seen a couple of the back of the shots there as Johnny was filming in the pit lane that the 171 Climax BMW M3 unfortunately was stuck right here in the middle of the pit lane. Basically what happened is they'd done the driver swap, they got out and the car died. They brought the battery booster down to try and jump it, got it started again, disconnected it and the car died once again, and unfortunately they've just wheeled it out of the pit lane now and it unfortunately is out of the race. Sad way to end the race again, but back to you guys up in commentary.
Particularly, Kieran, as they got this far, it's an hour and 40 minutes and within, not quite sight of the checkered flag, but inside the final 20 minutes, the late and much missed Hugh Chamberlain often used to say about runs at Le Mans is if you were going to retire, much better to retire in the first 2 hours than the final 2 hours, to have stayed up all night and fully committed to it. Learn your fate as early as possible and then you can go down the pub was his general way of thinking.
It seems a perfectly reasonable way of thinking as well, doesn't it? Just looking at the potential implications of, there's a spit. Oh, hang on. This could affect my spreadsheet again. That's the 119 car, the Audi TT of Sandro Ballesteros, which has spun. He's got the wipers going, the steam, I think that is, emitting from under the bonnet of the Audi TT. So that's spun off at Knickerbrook by the looks of it. And it doesn't look like it wants to get going again.
No. Has it stalled? I would imagine it has, or gone into some sort of limp mode, which trying to now get that out of the systems check. It's no doubt electrical more than anything else.
Before I saw that car stranded on the grass, I was about to say implications of that late stop for Nyland and Puttigill are that they wouldn't be able to overhaul Tidmarsh and Webster, but Trundy and Ballesteros would have been able to overhaul Trundy and Webster, so it would, well, they could have got level with them in the final round. But I think the way it's going, Johnny, the championship could be decided in favour of Tidmarsh and Webster today if they get to the end, because it looks like reliability possibly, or the spin, has afflicted their rivals. We'll just get obviously the final classification and the impact that has on the points in about 14 minutes time now.
Yeah, so a significant moment, particularly now as Sandro Ballesteros is not moving again, can't get the car to cooperate. They're stranded on the grass. It did look like it had stalled. That could have well have been as a result of a spin. Meanwhile, the race leader, Scott Parkin, not encountering those sort of problems in a similar car, mind you. The TT TDI heads over the start and finish line right in front of our commentary position. Lots of tyre pickup on the outside of Old Hall Corner now, so you don't want to be going too wide into that because grip will be at a real premium. But Scott not needing to worry because there's a real racing line that has developed over the last hour and a bit.
Yeah, and we've got marshals now on the scene by the Ballesteros Audi TT as well. So it looks like they're going to try and intervene somehow to get that car to a position of safety. And we get the safety car with 13 minutes of the race to go. It's just while the pit lane window's closed, because that means that's no longer a factor. And it looks like all they're going to do is push it up against the barrier there. So this could be quite a short safety car period, but it might be enough to spark a little bit more interest in some battles if it closes some gaps before the end. So we'll have to see how that works. But it doesn't look like they're going to get the intervention of a recovery vehicle there. There's the 171 car, which Kieran was reporting about a few moments ago, and there is the safety car, another BMW now on the track, just heading out onto the circuit where it will pick up the car of Andy Schultz, I think. That is the car that's going to slot in behind it.
Yeah, so it may take a couple of cars to be waved by.
Oh no, it's the Audi, I beg your pardon. The Stopford and Alan James car.
Okay. So that, in a moment, I'm sure will be given permission to head past on a safe-ish part of the circuit, as in maybe this straight between Cascades and Island Bend, heading down Lakeside. The recovery work continues in the foreground.
I mean, that's just showing off.
Yeah, it's a challenge to go through those plastic blocks going forwards, but now reverse. That's almost auto test style.
So they are going to try and move the Ballesteros car.
Ginetti can be waved through. The other question, of course, is whether this interrupts with some of the other class battles at all and gives certain cars, maybe class leaders, a massive lead that they wouldn't have already had. It's very dependent on Scott Parkin's location in relation to Class B and Class C front runners.
Yeah. So it's going to take a few moments, I would think, but it's then going to be how much racing is there left, if any, when all of this is sorted out. I must admit, I'm surprised that they are going to try and move that car. I thought that it looked like they got it reasonably far out of the way, given there's only 10 minutes of the race to go. It's not the kind of place that normally you'd expect something to go off to where they'd put it, I don't think.
Agreed.
So, yeah, but obviously they've made that decision that they will try to move it. I suppose they need to move it at some point. If not now, then after the race is finished. So actually just trying to get that done as soon as they can. So yep, safety car, boards, flags, lighting panels, all around the circuit.
There's the race leader, with the half red, half yellow door mirrors on the dark side. Developments Audi, car number 1. And then in behind, that Mazda will not be on the lead lap. So how close is this going to draw the Dylan Brichter car now? He's going to have lots of cars between the two Audis, so won't have clear line of sight. But this definitely equalises the field, and mainly in the favour, well, totally in the favour of the chasing cars. The one that is really going to lose out in this scenario is Scott Parkin. Thankfully, his car has proven to be very fast so far. The Paul Browse driven Cupra is also not far away from the race leader, but not on the same lap. Lap back, the bright green Cupra. And there's the Audi, second of the dark side cars. So car 6, maybe about 10 cars separating them-ish.
Like that. Just looking at the point situation again in Class B, I think if it finishes as it looks like it's going to now within Class B, then Tid Marshall-Webster will have wrapped up the Class B championship as well. So Scott Parkin will have wrapped up Class A, Tid Marshall-Webster will have wrapped up Class B, and Moore and Dennis will have wrapped up the overall championship, and quite neatly they'll all have been their respective class winners in this race as well, which is helpful for when Kieran goes to interview them at the end of the race as well. So there we are, there's the Ballesteros car being taken out of bounds. So that's clear of the circuit, so I think there'll be one more lap behind the safety car. So that's probably going to give us about 5.5 minutes or something of racing left, so maybe another 3-4 laps possibly between now and the end of the race. I mean, there are some gaps. It has closed up, so if you look 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, that's Paul Browse now, Alan Blanco, sorry, we're looking at that the wrong way. Yeah, Schultz, Paul Browse, Blanco and Shepherd, they're going to be separated by only a few seconds really. They're going to be sort of basically nose to tail as they come through, and a bit further back for 14th, 15th, 16th. You've got the Hooper, Walker and Nyland car. Importantly for Nyland, because he'll be trying to make up places to see if he can just pick up a couple more points. He needs to get on terms with Michael Downey though, which I don't think is going to happen, because there's basically a couple of laps between them now. So I think 4th place for particular Nyland within Class B is as good as it's going to get at that pit stop that they had to make. That's the car that's just going through now on the stream. That car was in the pits for a little while for an extra stop, and that has cost them the chance of taking the title fight to Donington Park for the final round on the 12th of October on the Grand Prix circuit there. So staying with another MSV track to complete the season. 4 of the 6 rounds have been at MSV circuits this year: Brands, Grand Prix, Snetterton, Oulton and then Donington for the final round of the season. Rounds at Croft. We've also been to Silverstone as well during the course of the year. So I can see a Marshall outside my country box window has got a yellow flag in one hand, he's got a green flag in the other hand, which suggests he's been given the word that at the end of this lap the safety car will go in.
I think you heard his name almost being called there. We don't know every Marshall by name, but we're learning slowly. Yeah, so that's definitely an indication that we get. In fact, the lights are out. Great spot, Ian. So the lights extinguished at Water Tower pretty much just before the Druids double right-hander. And yeah, all eyes on that fight for 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. Made more spicy because there were 5-second penalties integrated into that as well.
Yes,
so
that's right.
The 69 car now driven by Andy Schultz. Can't afford to waste too much time here in the third of the white BMWs, wanting to try and gap that green Cupra as much as possible in the 6 minutes that remain.
So here they come over the line with just under 6 minutes to go, and a good restart there from Scott Parkin. Of course, he had got Class A MX-5 behind him, not one of his Class A rivals. So all of the cars sort of shuffled out of sort of the order of their sort of lap pace, really. So it's going to take a moment or two for things to settle down as they emerge from this queue behind the safety car. But I think we'll find that Scott Parkin is just able to put a lot of daylight between himself and the rest. But it looks like Schultz now has cleared the MX-5, and as you say, he's got a 5-second penalty. So too does Andy Shepherd, a bit further back as well. So all will be revealed on the timing screen at the end of the race to exactly what the finishing order is for the minor places.
Shepherd in the number 10 M2 BMW. So in this batch, yeah, there he was on the outside line, leaving Shell Oils. So 2 Cupras together. They were together in the opening stanza as well, just before there was a very slight error from Claire Norman heading into Lodge Corner, which rather changed the order. Over Hilltop and into Knickerbrook go the race leaders. It's only 7.2 seconds timed at the line between the Parkin and Brichter Audis, but the problem is Brichter's got all this traffic to try and deposit, and Scott Parker's got an open road, so I would very much expect the number 1's lap time at the end of this, the first racing lap from the safety car, to be a lot faster than Audi number 6.
Yeah, certainly should be, and we know that it is difficult to get past even sort of slower cars, like he's about to pass now the Class B Audi. It's not necessarily easy to get through here at Oulton Park. Turning their way through, across the line has already gone Scott Parkin. He actually did the best lap of the race on that first flying lap of 1:48.225, so making sure of that fastest lap bonus point as well, it would seem. There's a battle for position. That's Browse and Blenko. Paul Browse and Alan Blenko. That's for 5th and 6th. The green Cupra and the sort of white and blue Cupra behind it. And the car behind that is the bit further back. It's one of the lapped cars, isn't it? So the car immediately behind on the road. Then we just saw a shot of Ryan Parkin going through, and he basically lost 7 seconds on that lap, first lap under green flag, because he was stuck in traffic, and Scott Parkin wasn't, Dylan Brichter, I should say, rather than Ryan Parkin in the car in second place. There it is.
Yeah, Scott Parkin doing the fastest lap of the race, and Dylan Brichter wanting to, but getting rather frustrated, I'm sure, in amongst a lot of the traffic. But it's very easy to throw a great position in this race, standalone, if you like, race away, because a first and a second place finish for Dark Side Developments is something that they would have been aiming for as we got this 1 hour and 40-minute race underway. Still the chance for the Cupras to switch positions. Blenko applying the pressure to Paul Brow's car. Meanwhile, the gap at the start of this lap to Andy Schultz in the 69 BMW, he's halfway there. 2.7 seconds it sat at the start of lap 50, 49 for the Schultz BMW, in fact. Still 3 cars remain on the lead lap, and Scott Parkin is still on the ragged edge, braking, turning, squealer tyres. Now to the outside goes Alan Blenko to try and pick off Paul Browse, and he's done it. Excellent move, late on the brakes to the outside of Lodge Corner. And is he going to stay ahead? Yeah, he's comfortably ahead, heading over the start and finish line. So the Norman and Blenko blue and white Cupra treble 4 now into 5th spot, could even be 4th once you incorporate the penalties.
And there is our Class B leader just going through shot. That's the number 8 Matthew Tidmarsh Ginetta. The car behind it is the car in or one of the cars behind it is the car in 3rd place within that class, but a lap behind, that's the Michael Downey Porsche Boxster. There is the number 19 car. That is the car that is in between them, that's 2nd place within that class. That's James Pickford at the wheel of the orange Audi TT at the moment. And just ahead of that on the road is the car that's in 4th place within that class. That's the Chris Nyland Honda Civic Type R that is, as I say, 4th place, and therefore not quite going to do enough to take the title fight to Donington Park.
Minute and 10 seconds left on the clock. 2nd place Audi, 17 seconds adrift now. So that is Dylan Brichter. And monitoring the gap back to Darren Ball to a certain extent, but it's the thick end of 10 seconds, so he doesn't need to be hugely concerned about that. Car immediately behind is the now Christopher Nyland driven Honda Civic Type R, which spent all of that time in the pit lane. They were addressing something related to the front left corner. A further penalty. It's an extra 10 seconds now to be added to the Fenwick and Shepherd BMW car number 10. So it's already carrying a 5-second penalty, probably for track limits, and a further track limit infringement. They're incremental steps, so the next one is a 10-second penalty, so 15 in total.
Yeah, so that's not going to help their cause. It will probably cost them a position, at least one position in this race. Nice little scrap going on here. This is James Pickford in the orange Audi TT taking flight to the R8 LMS car, just ahead of it. That's Alan James driving that at the moment. But now onto the last lap has gone Scott Parkin, 19 seconds to the good in this race now. And it's looking like this is going to be his third win of the season. Already had wins at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit and Snetterton as well. And in fact, he will have had all of his wins at MSV circuit, so he's clearly a great fan of the Jonathan Palmer owned facilities. Didn't do so well at Croft or Silverstone. But anyway, heading down towards the right-hander at Hislops for the 52nd and final time in this race. Through Knickerbrook, it's about a third of a lap to go now. Climbing up the hill, Clay Hill, under the pedestrian bridge. Then past that water tower, left-hand kink here, then into the right-hander at Druid's double apex right-hander. Out of it he will come onto the what is essentially a straight. He's got his hand out of the cockpit. He's either got a very hot hand or is celebrating already. And
saying thank you to all the marshals.
He is. Well, normally would do that on the slowing down lap, but he's so far ahead he can do it on the last lap of the race. He's going to take the checkered flag now, and he wins for the third time this season with Scott Parkin in the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship. He also wraps up the Class A Championship for Club Enduro for 2024. Next couple of cars over the line, it's going to be Schultz and then I think Blenko. But Schultz, with that penalty, knocked a place back to 5th place.
Yeah. The other penalty I've not mentioned yet, because it doesn't really affect his position, is Darren Ball. He got a late 5-second penalty in car 25 as well in the Cupra. But there was enough real estate both in front and behind for him to stay on the podium, 3rd position for number 25.
That's right, and cars still coming through, waiting for our Class B winner to come through. Here he is. Class B is won by Matthew Titmarsh and Chris Webster, who took the first part of that race. They wrap up the Class B Championship, so we're now just waiting for our Class C winners to come through, and they're going to wrap up the Class C Championship. And here they come. It's Ashmore with Sam Dennis. 5 out of 5 wins, 5 out of 5 fastest laps. They cannot improve on that score, whatever happens at Donington Park. They are the 2024 Tegiwa Club Enduro champions in that Motion Motorsport prepared Honda Civic Type R. Congratulations to Ashmore and Sam Dennis. Ashmore bringing the car home then for a 5th Class C victory in a row here at Oulton Park. Well, a great race that we had. They're just in the nick of time, I think, because there's a thunderstorm not too far away from Oulton Park at the moment, but the Club Enduro race just getting completed before we've fallen victim to the weather. So let's have a look at the results then. It is the number 1 car of Scott Parkin that took the win at the end of 52 laps. He was 21 seconds clear of number 6, Ryan Parkin and Dylan Brick. So there was a Dark Side Developments 1-2 there for the Audi TTs. Third was number 25, that was Darren Ball in the Cupra. Those were the only 3 finishers on the leading lap. In 4th place was the Treble 4 car, Claire Norman and Alan Blenko. 5th with a penalty, number 69, Matthew Hampson and Andy Schultz. 6th was number 22, Luke and Paul Browse, his father. 7th overall, number 8, winning Class B, that was number 1, Matthew Tidmarsh and Chris Webster. 8th to number 10, Bob Fenwick and Andrew Shepherd in the BMW. 9th to number 78, Alan Stockford and James. in the Audi. Completing the top 10 was the number 55 car, which was Simerson and Stanton. Second in Class B, Wayne Lawson and James Pickford in number 19, 11th overall, and third in Class B, number 76, Michael Downey. For Class C, it was in the 13th position overall, number 195, Sam Dennis and Ashmore. From second in Class C, 15th overall, Thomas Stedman and Michael Hooper, and third in Class C, Paul Subiani and Tom Walker in the 66 car. But it was a Dark Side Developments 1-2, a Dark Side Developments car that wins the race and the Class A Championship as well, with Scott Parkin bringing it home to make sure he will finish the season with at least 58 points, subject to any penalties or for anything that might be applied, which we haven't foreseen yet, but it will mean that he cannot now be caught by anybody else within the Class A. We'll hear from him shortly. Hopefully we'll also hear as well from our Class B winners, Tid Marshall-Webster, and our Class C winners Dennis and more as well. I can see Kieran doing his best to get everyone down there to have a word with them at the end of that race. But a great race for the Tegiwa Club Enduro Championship. Another round to go still at Donington Park next month. And a reminder that there's still 5 more races to go here today at Oulton Park. Coming up next, we've got the 5 Club Racing MX5 Cup, then we've got the Nankang Tyre Sports 1000 Championship, Zamp Helmets Formula V, Caton Racing Clear Sport Championship, and the High-Tech Alfa Romeo as well. So still 5 more races to come for you this afternoon here at Oulton Park. So don't go away. Very shortly we'll head down to Parc Fermé. We've seen that Kieran has very busily got everyone into position there. We'll hear from him in just a moment, Johnny.
Yeah, quite a lot of track maintenance required, though, after such a long race. The marshals are quickly out onto the racing surface to make sure it's suitable for those 5 races that you were talking about, Ian. And that, I think, promised a bit more than eventually it delivered, just purely because the gaps increased in the second stage. The safety car certainly did spice things up towards the end, and Scott Parkin must have been thinking, what on earth do I have to do here to ensure that I can take a class victory? And also the other cars in good positions in Class B and Class C will have been thinking the same as well. That will have disrupted some of the closer fights if indeed Scott Parker was wedged in between them, because all of a sudden you've got certain cars within categories that can be waved into a huge lead. But that is just the nature of nullifying the field to make sure that it is safe for recovery of cars to take place. Order retained, of course, and then we had a short, sharp restart. But I think the most grateful that everyone will be is the fact that we've managed to escape the rain shower, which could be heading our way, but it's not interfered with the Tegiwa Enduro Cup. And we can head now to Kieran Mogg for some reaction from that race.
Well, it certainly always delivers, and these 3 have been dominant throughout of the year. We're going to speak to Scott Parkin. Scott, race win, championship win in your class. How was it out there?
Yeah, pretty good. I was just saying the BMW Kevin Clark looked like he was going to give us a bit of trouble. He pitted quite early. They put some fuel in, came out in front of me, so I thought, right, I'll get a measure of his pace, and I seemed to catch him really quick, and I said to the guys on the radio, something's not quite right there with him, and I passed him pretty easily, and then he came into the pit, so clearly he had an issue. Yeah, and then it was just a case of sort of keeping it on the track. I had a spin, I hope you got that on camera. I had a spin into the chicane. We put new tyres on the car in the pit stop, and that changed the balance quite a bit, so I had a lot more front end. So I went into there, back end just came round, I just thought I just let it spun round, luckily nobody around me, so yeah, I think that cost me about 10 seconds, but yeah, with the looks of it, it didn't seem to make much difference. But yeah, thank you so much to the team. You know, they were up while nearly 1 a.m. yesterday sorting some issues out on the car that they found, and we've had a 1-2, which is fantastic for the team, so that's the payback for their hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations on the win and the championship as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, I know Ian's going to be quite laughing at this. Look what's here, it's the Ginetta, it's fantastic. I'm going to speak fantastic race with the win, as we spoke about beforehand.
Yes.
It made it.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, no problems whatsoever. A few little bits have come undone, but that's endurance racing. So yeah, pleased to be on the front stop again. Chris did all the hard work. You know, it made it quite easy for me. I think about a 20-second lead when I came out of the pits. I don't know what happened to the other Honda, but he dropped back a long way. So yeah, I just cruised home. Really turned the cool shirt on to full and cruised home.
Now, I spoke to Chris obviously during the pits, well, after you'd pitted, and he was saying the traffic management wasn't actually that bad. Did you find the same sort of thing?
Yeah, it's not too bad. You know, it's only been 23 cars. It's not as busy as it can be, and yeah, I just focused on keeping out of trouble, putting in consistent sort of mid 155s because I knew that was plenty to get home. Short shifting, preserve the car, and here we are, top step, second race in a row. So yeah,
Absolutely, and I believe also the class championship.
possibly. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't done the math.
Well, Ian Soman's just told me that you have, so if I'm wrong, then he's wrong.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if he's right, then
I was thinking on the way in, thinking, well, if Portugal and Nyland have had a bad result and the Audi didn't finish, then that puts us a long way ahead. And I think we got fastest lap today as well, and lap record again. So yeah, potentially, yeah, we'll have to look at that.
yeah, well, fingers crossed and congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Now I'll come speak to the number 195 class winner.
Yeah.
Class champion and overall champion.
Yeah, it's really been a dream year. It's been good. Really happy to get over the line now. So yeah, all the nerves are off. We can go into Donington and actually enjoy racing again, which would be nice.
Absolutely. Obviously, you've had to really fight for it this year as well. How has the competition been throughout the year?
Yeah, the competition's been amazing. There was an MX-5 that kept us honest through the whole thing. Obviously Scott and Ryan, all the people in Class A as well. So yeah, it's been super tight, but yeah, get it over the line. It's been perfect.
Going to Donington, you're just going to go just for the glory.
Yeah, we'll still be there to race. So yeah, it'll be good. Just have a little bit of a chilled one.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on the win, class championship and overall championship.
Cool. Thank you ever so much. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Right. So, just before we go into the next race, we're going to hear just from us. I'm going to go do that again. We're going to hear from a couple of our sponsors. We'll see you in just a second.